In Elden Ring, enemy placements are of particular relevance to the story. The reasons for their presence are rarely stated, leaving the door open for interpretation. In the previous video, we explored a few such encounters and plausible theories about them. Today, we'll continue that examination with 5 more fascinating enemies of the Lands Between and the Land of Shadow. Let's dive in. Wormfaces are tall and sickly creatures, with worm-like tentacles protruding from their heads. Based on their ability to spew deathblight, they're likely connected to the spread of Deathroot, propagated by Godwyn's cadaver, one of the game's major plot threads. Interestingly, their name in the game files translates to uprooted, possibly hinting at their origins. Most of them dwell in the forest surrounding the Woodfolk ruins, west of the royal capital. Perhaps this is where Godwyn was slain on the night of the Black Knives, which might explain the perpetual fog lingering in the area. If that's the case, local residents of this forest might have been transformed along with him, mirroring the way his body changed into a tall, misshapen creature. On that note, the name Woodfolk could allude to Numen, the ancient people from beyond the sea with a unique connection to trees. Maybe some of them lived here prior to the shattering, before they turned into Wormfaces. Another solitary Wormface is found on Mount Gelmir, initially disguised as a burning corpse. Upon defeat, it drops a larval tear, revealing its true nature of mimic. In his defiance against the capital, it seems Rykard used every tool at his disposal, including means of tricking the enemy. Under the right circumstances, a Wormface disguised as a common soldier would have been a tactical asset for the Volcano Manor's forces, capable of unleashing lethal clouds of deathblight amidst opposing ranks. Then, there's another group found on the lower levels of Farum Azula. Their presence here might seem strange at first glance, but a couple nearby details might provide some context. There's of course the nearby clumps of Deathroot seen growing in the ruins, as well as proximity to undeads, forming a common pattern with the Woodfolk ruins location. There's also the murals in Malekith's room, seemingly depicting Wormfaces prior to their transformation. These clues form a fascinating puzzle. They're evidently ancient creatures, who perhaps held clerical functions under Placidusax's reign, as suggested by their cloaks and ceremonial bandages. In the end, they were profoundly transformed by deathblight, becoming another casualty of the Night of the Black Knives and the Shattering. Iron Abductors, also known as Iron Virgins, are heavily armed constructs, designed with the intent of capturing victims for interrogation. Most of them are located in places connected to the Carian branch of the demigod family, such as the Academy of Raya Lucaria. Here, we find one of them patrolling the upper garden, not far from the Grand Library where Renala was locked away. Another is located at the bottom of the water wheel, its power of transposition still intact. Upon successful capture, it sends its victims to the Volcano Manor, Rykard's gruesome stronghold. This suggests they were created here and used to gather captives such as Albinaurics and political enemies. After Rykard's consumption by the god-devouring serpent, their usefulness remained as a way to bring sacrifices, fueling the serpent's growth. Several more are found on the lower slopes of Mount Gelmir, tirelessly fighting Leyndell's soldiers. This alludes to their durability on the field of battle and their efficiency against infantry. The one in Carrier Manor was likely sent here to bolster the fort's meager garrison, left mostly empty after Relana's departure and the Liurnian Civil War. These days, the lower levels of the manor are guarded by finger creepers, another creature linked to Rykard. Perhaps these reinforcements came on Ranni's request, as she and Rykard were co-conspirators in the Night of the Black Knives. A few abductors are also seen in Caelid, likely sent as a brotherly gift to Radahn. One of them stands guard in Redmane Castle, watching over the upper level of the main courtyard. Further north, another guards the entrance of a rot-infested cave, hidden along a cliffside. Within it, we find a significant number of abductors, all of them broken or disabled. After the Battle of Ionia, they probably pursued Malenia's retreating forces, chasing a few surviving clean-rot knights into this cave system. In this confined environment, saturated with scarlet rot, they surely held a tactical advantage, which they successfully leveraged against the constructs. They've remained inside ever since, perhaps too wounded to escape the cave, and face the abductor waiting for them outside. A few others are found in the capital's fortified manor, patrolling the garden area, which leads to the broken Divine Bridge. Perhaps they date back to Rykard's time as Praetor of the Golden Order, possibly hinting that he held residence here at one point, or that he sought to capture tarnished warriors returning to the capital. Lastly, there's two more in the Fort of Reprimand, a stronghold of Mesmer's army, held by a contingent of Black Knights and Omen Killers. They were likely part of the army that invaded the Land of Shadow, maybe offered as Rykard's contribution to the war effort. Onyx and Alabaster lords are masters of gravity magic. These ancient beings rose in the wake of meteors long ago. We find several of them near impact craters, like this elevated glade in Weeping Peninsula, as well as Yellow Onyx Tunnel in the consecrated snowfield, the crash site of Astal Stars of Darkness. Another appears in the Academy, next to an isolated altar. He drops the Gravity Well incantation, which states that Radahn studied under an Alabaster Lord. therefore. Maybe this is the individual who taught him, a vassal of the Carians who later returned to Liurnia. Another Onyx Lord is imprisoned in an Everjail next to Carrier Manor. Perhaps he was captured and interrogated by Rani's vassals in an attempt to learn more about the frozen movement of stars, a major obstacle in the way of her plans. Then, there's those in Limgrave and the Lake of Rot. They appear near ruins of ancient civilizations, alluding to how long their species has been around. Another Onyx Lord acts as gatekeeper to the divine tower of West Altus. There could be a narrative link with the meteor chunks embedded at the top of the towers, the presumed remnants of a forgotten era, long before the rise of the Erd Tree. Perhaps Onyx and Alabaster Lords held an important role in the distant past, maybe as rulers or esteemed guardians. Ever since the rise of the Golden Order and the time of Godfrey, gladiatorial combat became a popular tradition in the lands between. In these vast colosseums, brave warriors honored the Erd Tree by participating in merciless duels, witnessed by crowds of spectators. At some point, however, these arenas were closed down, and the gladiators driven away. As such, only a few duelists remained in the capital, lingering near the Colosseum where they once fought, perhaps reluctant to let go of old traditions. Others traveled north, perhaps in search of the Halig Tree, a place welcoming of those shunned by society, such as exiled gladiators in search of a new life. At some point, though, they became afflicted by scarlet rot, likely due to the Halig Tree's proximity. One of them guards the outskirts of Ordina, standing over the town's western cliff, presumably loyal to the Empyrean twins. Another stands watch over a graveyard, deep in the blizzard to the south of the snowfield. Indeed, several duelists took on the role of grave wardens following the Colosseum's closures. Under the Golden Order, overseeing the sacred rite of tree burial was a most honorable task, worthy of such renowned warriors. 4 grave warden duelists are located in burial rooms across the continent's catacombs, silently waiting for intruders to challenge. Interestingly, one of them fights alongside living jars, highlighting a similarity between them. Fire Knights are found in various parts of the Shadow Keep, the massive castle to the north of the Shadow Realm. Each of them descends from noble families of the Golden Order's aristocracy, shunned from their homes when they pledged allegiance to Messmer. These were the only ones of his men who knew of his true nature, implying a privileged connection with their commander. Because of this, they successfully convinced him to preserve the ruins of Rao and their ancient specimens. This explains why we find so many of them in the specimen storehouse, guarding precious scrolls, stone tablets, and fossils. the remains of ancestor spirits, as well as the mysterious giant hanging in the storehouse, were likely gathered from the ruins on the Fire Knight's orders, who clearly valued such ancient knowledge. Interestingly, their helms provide the same bonus as favor talismans, implying they were blessed by Marika. This could explain their presence in the church district, a place once dedicated to her worship. They could also be a split faction of masked Fire Knights, led by Elder Wigo. Gnawed at by loneliness, this one learned to master Messmer's flame as a power of resurrection, using it to raise the burning corpses seen around the district, which bring him no comfort. After draining water from the district, we find him within the ruined cathedral, next to Marika's statue. Perhaps he was tasked as solitary vigil of this abandoned church, which led him to grow mad with solitude. Another nearby Fire Knight is Quilin, found in a locked room upstairs at the end of his quest line. He faces an existential crisis, begging his queen to let him see the grace of gold once more.
Queen Marika, mother to us all, favor me with thy grace. I have met many who would threaten or distress thee, and quelled each and all, and I hereby swear to never cease. So please, grant me thy grace. Leave me with my solitary light. Queen Marika, dearest mother, I shall silence all who would trespass upon thy peace, as decreed by the grace of gold. No soul shall thy sanctity imperil.
A few more Fire Knights act as Messmer's personal guard, patrolling the upper levels of the Shadow Keep. They're his last line of defense, with one of them guarding the path to his chambers. He could very well be Messmer's most trusted soldier, assigned as personal bodyguard. If you enjoy my content, remember to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.